Hello, travelers. My name is Thomas the Human Bard, and I am joined today by...
Onog the half-orc barbarian.
And this is a side quest. It's a side quest. We're going off on a side quest.
Oh, how very specific.
Yes. Today we are looking over some Unearthed Arcana from Wizards of the Coast. We did this a couple episodes ago. We had a side quest about this, and we're probably going to make this semi-regular, where whenever an Unearthed Arcana comes out, we re-earth it, we bury it back in the ground where it should stay, where it belongs.
That being said, I think we missed a couple.
We did. They've been coming out with them so fast. They used to be like every once in a blue moon you'd get an Unearthed Arcana, but they've come out with 12 new subclasses over the past like 2 months or something. So
yeah, so we'll have to double back on those wizard ones.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, right now we're going to be talking about the Fighter, Ranger, and Rogue Unearthed Arcana that was released on October 17th of this year.
Yes. This year, the year 2019, the year of our Lord, Jeremy Crawford.
The year of our Lord, Jeremy Crawford.
Uh-huh. I've been arguing that we need to change the calendar year so that it's not the year of our Lord in reference to Christianity anymore. We start the calendar, year 0 is the year when Shrek came out. And then it's after that, it's the year of our Lord Farquaad.
No.
These are long may he reign. Although he does kind of disappear after that first one, huh?
Well, I mean, he's in the last time we see Farquaad is in like the music mashup thing at the end, like the dance party.
That
like
American
fever
Idol.
Well, no, that was the second one. The first Shrek just had like it was like
oh yeah.
At like the wedding, and it was just like a dance party, and it was just like a mashup melody of just random like pop songs throughout history.
Isn't the shot of him with like the executioner next to him implying like they're taking him off to be executed?
No, what? Because remember at the end of the movie, Farquaad gets eaten by the dragon.
Oh, right.
And it cuts to him like they start singing "Staying
dragon?
Alive," and it cuts to him with like a candle like inside the dragon's stomach.
Right. So he's probably fine. He probably made it out. So yeah, that's the first subclass. Let's move on to the next one. All right, our first subclass. The first new one, Martial Archetype Rune Knight. A new fighter archetype, the Rune Knight. For when you want to be a magic fighter, but you don't like Eldritch Knights.
Yeah, this was such an interesting read. I was very intrigued by this, and I like it. I like this subclass, just flavor-wise, like so much.
I like it more than something like Eldritch Knight, where Eldritch Knight feels like, I don't know, you get some wizard spells. This feels like a way to incorporate magic into the class without it being just cast some basic wizard spells now.
Mm-hmm. Now that being said, I find it very interesting that like the casting modifier for the Rune Knight is intelligence, because it's based off of like the runes of giants and their languages, which is like very very Nordic and very it's very Norse like Norse mythology flavor wise.
They even use the term skiltgraver for rune cutters, which I did see somebody who speaks or at least is very familiar with some Norse languages on Twitter did tweet at Wizards of the Coast saying you might want to update that word, because skiltgraver would literally translate, like the word skilt translates to sign, but not like a sign in a sort of like abstract, but like a literal road sign. And so he's like, the word skiltgraver would immediately bring to mind somebody who's like a municipal servant who makes stop signs. He's like, that's just not what you were going for, I don't think. So you might want to look at, and he gave some other suggestions for
I am the man who arranges the signs.
I like, though, maybe that's you wield a stop sign as your weapon.
That's just what it is. That's how it goes.
That's the ultimate stop sign. It stops you from living.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, but like considering that like only like a couple giants are even moderately intelligent and have like society outside of me crush bones and break you.
I mean, the big ones do. The
storm giants,
cloud giants.
Yeah, but they're the only ones.
Yeah, you're right.
Like even fire giants have like a society, but it's still like heavily militaristic.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
It's a bit like barbarous.
Yeah. But but all the same, like this is still like a cool idea, and it's you can kind of just flavor it however you want. Like you can be like, I am the rune keeper of my people, or some, like this Goliath rune knight walking around. Or you could take it the other way, which is probably my favorite way to handle this, especially considering some abilities you get later, is just have a gnome. It's just a gnome giant rune knight, and that's all that it is. All that it is.
Okay. And I do think definitely like right up front, I think it does almost feel like two ideas they had at the same time that they kind of neither of them were a full idea, so they kind of put them together where like you use magical runes engraved on your weapons, and then also you're a giant, or you are
capable
to giants.
Of becoming giant? ?
And then they were like, neither of those is full on its own, and we got just kind of stuck them together. But without the flavor of runes being giantish runes, it does sort of fall apart a little bit. It's like, why do I grow very big? What does that have to do with me knowing magical runes?
Honestly, this whole string of Unearthed Arcana they've been doing are just like, because they've kind of covered their generic bases that can be reflavored, like Battlemaster or like, Berserker Barbarians. Like these are basic things, and you can flavor them however you want. This thing has like the flavor caked in kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And like if you tried to reflavor it, it really just wouldn't make any sense. And so this is one of those things where it's like, yes, your background is sort of determined by your class, which is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like you are someone who has worked with giants or is part of a giant clan or something. Like this is something you have to be able to be this class. Because otherwise it just doesn't track.
Because even if you're like a draconic like sorcerer, it doesn't have to be literally you've spent your life around dragons. It's just I don't know, maybe your great grandpa was a dragon. It just like it can be more distanced from you, whereas this is like it already wrote your backstory for you. Yeah
And that's a little bit limiting, but then again, this is kind of an Unearthed Arcana, and they're probably just throwing the spaghetti at the walls and seeing what sticks kind of a thing.
And it is a little bit of spaghetti, especially once you start realizing how good it is.
This is easily one of the best fighter classes I've seen.
Power level wise, it's very high.
Yeah. It's particularly like literally the first abilities that you get. Like proficiency with Smith Tools and Speaking Giant, that's fun. That's super cool. That's very flavorful. But like the rune magic you get, literally the first rune option you get is Haug or Hill Rune, and it's just like you have advantage on saving throws against being poisoned, and you have resistance against poison damage. Cool. That's always helpful, especially in lower level campaigns where it's like poison is a lot more dangerous.
Yeah.
Unless you like homebrew random poisons that are like super, super potent. But then so each rune has like the static effect that it causes, and then each rune has an on-use effect. But at least as far as has an activated ability, and as far as I can see here, using the activated ability doesn't disable the static effect for any reason. So it's just like you just have the static effect, and then you can just use this bonkers cool ability whenever you want, kind of a thing.
Yeah, you can invoke the rune.
Like once per short rest, obviously, but like
but it's only that rune. You once you invoke that rune.
Yeah, so you can do the other runes that you have, but then this Hill Rune, this Haug Rune. In addition, you can invoke the rune as a bonus action, gaining resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage for 1 minute. Once you invoke this rune, you can't do so again until a short rest, yada, yada, yada. So, like, oh, did you secretly want to be a barbarian? Here, have this.
Yeah.
And you can change, apparently, according to the rules, you can change what runes you have knowledge of every time you level up. You can just swap them.
Yep.
So it's just like, oh, I never used that one, or I don't like this one, or we're not drinking a lot of poison. So, but like this is easily one of the best ones because it is like always relevant because of its activated ability.
You put this on like a breastplate or something like that.
And then you're just like, oh, I can just tank like a barbarian whenever.
Yeah, I think it's also like it's really cool that the runes you can only put them. It does limit it, so it's like you can only go on a weapon, armor, or a shield, and one object can only have one rune at a time. But you can be carrying multiple weapons, each with a rune on it. Like
you don't have to have each of these equipped, quote unquote. Which what does that even mean in D&D? But you can just have them on your person, and as you level up, you learn more and more runes. And every short rest, you can just tag each object with a rune that you know for each rune individually. Yeah. So it's just you just actively gain these abilities. It's unless you're in a campaign where they're like stripping your equipment from you kind of a thing, like you will have these abilities.
Yeah, but a campaign that strips your equipment from you, that stuff also takes out casters' abilities and stuff. So, yeah. But yeah, overall, it's really cool. It does do one of the things that they normally don't like doing, which is it makes you have a player character that can. Well, I guess they have a couple of things that can make you large, so they just don't like them normally defaulting.
Yeah,
to large.
They don't like default player characters being large, but they love giving you the ability to become large.
That's true.
Yeah, the Draugr, or not the Draugr, the Dwergar, like the dark dwarves from...
They do their like dwarf Hulk Underdark
from
thing.
From the Sword Coast Adventure Guide. They have their dwarf Hulkitude.
Yep. But yeah, overall, this is like the most sort of like normal one of the three, where this is pretty straightforward. It's cool and powerful, but it's not too ridiculous or out there, really.
And honestly, like in the early levels, it looks like it's like I'm kind of a reshaped barbarian with magics and stuff like that. Especially the ones that it's like, you gain damage resistance and then you also gain strength that can like boost your strength above 20, which is like super rad. But then later ones and other abilities, like it starts coming off like this is also a very support fighter, which is very interesting. It like at a certain point, like you start getting like bardic abilities to like interfere with other creatures, like ability scores or like saving throws and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean the like the sky cloud rune is an interesting one that's very, like you were saying, like some of these rune abilities can be used offensively or as like a support feature.
Yeah.
When you invoke it, or I don't even know if it does invoke. Oh, no, it doesn't. In addition, when you are a creature you can see within 30 feet is hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to invoke the rune and cause that attack to target a different creature within 30 feet of you using the same roll.
Yeah, that is really good.
It's really good.
And it's so good.
You can use that to protect yourself, obviously, and make
or
yourself
someone else. Like,
but yeah, you can like walk around protecting your teammates. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can just make your opponent hit one of the other opponents. And I love because it's the way it's phrasing. It's not like you doing a maneuver that forces the opponent to hit someone nearby them. You just are magically transferring the damage to someone else.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about like how does their arm stretch over there. It's just like
it just
the
goes,
other guy just dies instead. Whoops.
You just smacked your friend.
Yep.
Think about that for the rest of your life. I do have one minor complaint. The Ise, the Frost rune. This rune's magic evokes the Frost Giant's stoic calm. I don't remember Frost Giants being particularly calm. If I remember correctly, they're like easily the most barbarous of any of the of the giants.
Are they known for being like very patient or something?
I don't know. They're literally like running around with like barbarian stuff. Like they're so vicious and violent that they can like mutate into having like 2 heads and stuff like that. So like I don't know what they're talking about there. I haven't read their entry in a long time, so maybe it's just one of those things where it's like, ah yes, these mystical and stoic, chaotic, evil barbarians, and I'm just like, okay, whatever.
Mm-hmm. I also like in that ice rune the sentence, this can cause your score to exceed 20, but not 30. Because it can increase your strength score.
Oh, that would be inappropriate.
I like that they go, come on, we're not.
It's like if you can use this ability to pop you over 30, just let them have it. Like, are you kidding me?
I like though the idea that it's just like, sure, you could exceed 20, but not 30. We're not animals.
It's like I don't even know. Like rules is written, I don't even think that's possible.
I have no idea.
Like
how
you just have
to
you just have to keep getting those like tome of strength over and over and over again, and that's like the only magical item your DM ever gives you. That's like the only way to exceed a certain amount of strength.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I like that you grow like permanently at the kind of
you actively
level.
Grow like
you actually
several.
Just like can gain a foot or two.
Yeah,
that's
fun. That's like good flavor, very like Lord of the Rings, like drinking the tree sap kind of a thing. Because like when
the Ent water,
Merry and Pippin drink like the Ent food, that they come back and they're like a foot taller, and everyone's like, "What the heck happened to you guys?"
We got swole out in the wilderness. Yeah. Other than that, though, there's not too much else that's like, I don't know, that sticks out to me that much. Mm-hmm. The runes are very cool, and I like the idea that with enough home brewing, you could probably come up with some more runes with your DM and be like, hey, this one's not too, it's like comparatively does a similar thing, so I want to like make up a new rune to add to it. I think that's kind of a cool vibe you could add.
This is like very reminiscent of the Chaos Barbarian, except you get to pick it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's like, oh, okay. Because we were talking about, would any one of these abilities be cool on their own? And as this night like proves, each of them are like super cool on their own. Some of them are more situational than others, but like all of these are very valid abilities, and some of them maybe too much so.
Yeah, it is a bit where like if you split these rune options to just be like at 6th level you gain and then it just has the like fire rune description, and then it's like at 10th level you gain, and it's just the stone rune description. I wouldn't have thought that was like not powerful enough.
Yeah.
But they just give you them all up front, and then they keep giving you other abilities too.
Well, you do only get to pick 2 in the beginning.
No, yeah, I know, but you can choose which 2. So,
but you get to pick which ones.
You can pick which one you want, and you can re-choose whenever you level up.
Yeah, whenever you level up,
you can replace one of them. So,
which is the thing where it's like, oh, it's an early level campaign, and that's when all the characters usually die. So I'm going to pick the defensive one that lets me survive, so that I can survive until my later levels and then pick something different, you know.
Yep. Let's move on to the Ranger archetype, which is my personal, I don't know if it's my favorite. It's very good, but it might be tied with the Rogue for me.
What the heck is this?
What
is happening?
Garbage is this? All right, the Ranger archetype, Swarm Keeper. As it has become colloquially known on the internet now, the Bees Ranger.
Bees.
Bees. Somebody was there was a post that I saw on Reddit. I wrote a backstory for my Swarmkeeper Ranger. I wanted to know what you thought, and they had just copy pasted the script of the Bee movie.
Or it's one of those things.
According to all known laws of aviation, a bee should not be able to fly.
or there's like, what was it? Bee Man or something. It's one of those like YouTube cartoon memes or something. Ah, yes, a huge influx of bees should solve this problem.
It also reminds me of it because, okay, so with the Swarmkeeper, you're a ranger who can essentially summon a swarm of things that
you're
help
just a gross nature boy.
But it doesn't have to be, really interestingly. It doesn't have to be bees.
Yeah.
One of the options it gives you is squids, and I want to know how that makes sense with a few of these abilities.
Well, and then it also says like, or etc. You know, like it's
you can come up with something, another swarming thing.
But yeah, especially with some of these later level abilities, it does not make sense. If you don't have something that can fly.
yeah. If you have a swarm of rats, and then one of the later abilities lets you fly, and it's you're like, how are the rats making me fly?
Come, my squirrel brothers, let us ascend into the air. And they're just all flapping their tails or something. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, they're like helicopter tails. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, even like the wording of some of these abilities, like there's an option where it's like you can have like a flock of sparrows around you. It's like, ooh, that's cute. That's cool. You could be like the Birdman from Alcatraz. But then it's like... But then it just keeps referring to their creepy little eyes, and it's like, no, you're clearly talking about bees.
You just keep meaning bees. It should have just been the beekeeper, and you should have just dumped all the other ones.
Oh, it's like the sorceress origin we just talked about, where it's like...
A tentacle.
Yeah, you can be whatever you want as long as you're a creepy, greasy boy.
You can be whatever you want as long as what you want is tentacle.
As long as what you want has a sallow... thick skin grossness to it.
Yeah. The other funny thing with this is you could do like spiders or something like that. And it makes me think of a web comic where, or not a web comic, an actual Marvel comic where Spider-Man bluffs some people out by saying, they're like, what are you doing? And he's like got his hands on his temples. He's like, I'm calling the spiders. What do you mean? He's like, I'm Spider-Man. What did you think my power was? And they're like, okay, I give up. Just take me in.
Because anything but a swarm of spiders.
Don't call in all the spiders. I could be that ranger now, which I like as an idea. You
can be joke Spider-Man. And
so, okay.
There is something important though, we need to talk about with this. Is because this subclass gives the ranger a lot of different abilities that can be supplemented by their spell slots, which is like a very important distinction to make. Yeah, because like the main complaint is like, wow, all the ranger spells are useless except Hunter's Mark. This is like giving you some relatively viable options, like area control effects, like just extra damage kind of a thing that you can do without expending a spell slot. But then if you just want to do it again, just hit the push, hit the smack button and go for it.
Yeah, I also do like that the expanded spell list does give you insect plague at 17. So I'm happy about that.
It would need to.
It has to. I'm glad that they didn't forget about that.
Now, on that note, though, does it make sense that this is a ranger? ? Would this have made more sense?
Absolutely not.
Would this have just been better as a druid? Like these are all very druidic powers.
I have no idea why this isn't a druid. Yeah. I want anyone at Wizards of the Coast to defend to me. Well, I think the problem is that they'd already made a druid, and they were like, "Well, we'll make it a ranger," because they wanted to make one for every class, and they'd already done the wildfire druid, and they were like, "Well, we'll pretend this one was a ranger."
I mean, but that's honestly a problem that the ranger falls into, is that either it's a bad druid or it gets all these abilities that makes it better than a druid, and then the druids get mad, because that was a big problem with 3.5. A lot of people, because 3.5, like, if you were a ranger, you got an animal companion by default. Like, you didn't have to pick a specific subclass. And it was like something like a tiger or a puma, like something useful. And the druids got animal companions, but they were more akin to, like, familiars, like birds or eagles or owls. And so there was this huge discussion going on where it's like, well, why do the rangers get the animal husbandry thing when, like, I'm literally a druid and I live in the woods, and he just kind of summer homes there,
Definitely. Yeah.
And this is just one of those scenarios where it's like, this doesn't make sense as a ranger. This would have been much more like at least the flavor that they're going for. This makes so much more sense as a druid.
It does. It doesn't even like reference most ranger stuff.
Yeah.
just
except for like the one ability that's like when you make a weapon attack, it just does extra damage because the bees are there.
Well, because the bees.
Because you're hitting them with your bees.
Yes, definitely. I do like that it doesn't ever say that like the swarm, because almost every ability it says like you learn the Mage Hand cantrip. When you cast it, it takes the form of a swarm of swarming nature spirits. But other abilities like Gathered Swarm just say like you magically attract a swarm of fey spirits. So those could be different swarms from each other.
Yeah, and that's kind of a thing, is like it doesn't explicitly state that like
they have to always be the same one.
That they're always the same one, or that like even the whole amount of swarm is the same creature. Because like you could just have like squirrels running around in your robes, but then like it's just
it's weird. It's very weird.
But then there are just bees also.
But also bees. I like the idea that like you start playing this ranger and it's very fun to begin with, and every time you go into combat you're like, haha, bees, and everyone goes, yeah, bees. But by like 16th level, you're 8 months into your campaign, you're just like, all right, bees, and your party goes, bees. It's lost all of its luster.
Which is always the answer and the question.
We can't avoid the bees now. Yeah. I don't have anything else to really talk about other than bees, but you got anything else to say about the bees ranger?
Not really about this, where it's like these abilities are cool, and I like that they supplement from the spell slots that rangers get, because like they have so little use for these things that actually matter. And so like giving them something to do with their spell slots is very cool. But I mean, if we wanted to move on to the new rogue subclass, speaking of things that wrote your backstory for you.
Sort of, yes. I like this one a lot, and I get what you mean, but I also like that it can be very weird. Yeah, the new roguish archetype, the Revived. You've had a soul-shaking realization. You've been dead before, yet somehow you are alive.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that special? What happened here? So the general idea being
especially
that,
considering most D&D campaigns, like, oh, you're the one that gets to be weird because you died. Welcome to the party, kid.
Well, every character looks at you. Yeah, I didn't need a class to make that my backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just played for 3 months.
One of the really interesting things about this archetype is that it's like really heavily roleplay, like non-combat focused, which I really like personally.
There is like one combat ability, and it's actually kind of bonkers.
Oh no, it's very good. Don't get me wrong, but like most of it, is much more focused on outside of combat and what you are doing outside of combat.
Or like utility things,
Yeah, and I wish, overall, if I could start D&D 5th edition over again, I wish there was a little more of that. Because they always say there are 3 pillars of play. There's combat, exploration, and roleplay or socialization.
And here is 1 page on exploration, and here is 2 pages on roleplay, and 98 pages on combat.
90% of every class's abilities references combat, and 10% of them reference roleplay. And it's like, well, it seems to me really, and none of them, and 1 ability references exploration.
And it's the worst one.
The ranger ability no one likes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I wish there was more like this, where you could have an entire class built far more around the other pillars of play.
Mm-hmm. Well, because that's honestly the thing. It's just kind of like what we've talked about before, is like D&D's roots are in like military like simulations kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so like if your character is useless in combat, well, guess what? You died. You can't.
It's true.
If you're useless at exploration, you just go to a different town instead. If you're useless at social stuff, well, guess what? You just entered combat, the thing you're good at. If
you couldn't talk your way out, lucky you, you're in combat.
Then you get to fight it. But like, if if you're useless in combat and combat happens, you just die.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
let's talk about some of this. I like this a lot. I really like the like normal ability, the tokens of past lives ability, the 3rd level feature. You remember talents you had in your previous life. When you finish a long rest, you gain 1 skill or tool proficiency of your choice. You can replace this proficiency with another when you finish a long rest.
No, that's like a super cool ability, because it's just one of those things where it's like, we're going to go talk to some wizards. I need to switch over to Arcana real quick. Yeah, I know about that. I can hang with the best. Except it gets kind of problematic because rogues have another ability called Expertise. Which gives you double bonus proficiency in something that you are proficient in. So if I have if I have Expertise in Stealth, and I remove my proficiency in Stealth to become proficient in Arcana, does it move the Expertise ? Am I still do I still have Expertise in Stealth and I can now just cheat the system? If I change the skill back to Stealth, will I still have Expertise? It's like there's a lot of like layering questions that this single ability, because it is on a rogue, brings up. If this kind of ability was on any other class, except for Bard and Rogue, because they're the only ones who get Expertise, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, oh, that's super cool. But because it's on literally the people that require you be proficient in something before your other abilities can trigger on it, and the fact that it lets you change that doesn't track, and I don't know what it means or what will apply to it when that changes. Yeah.
I have no idea. Is the Expertise feature like outside of the math? So is it like I always have Expertise in pickpocketing,
and the only but if I just got to pick it because I was proficient, and now I always have Expertise. Yeah.
But is it like if I move my proficiency, now I have no proficiency in it, no Expertise, no proficiency. But if I move it back, I get proficiency and Expertise, because the Expertise is only ever going to modify that same one.
Yeah. So I don't know. Let me just read the rule list, or the rules as it applies to Expertise. At first level, choose two of your skill proficiencies, or one of your skill proficiencies and your proficiency with Thieves' Tools. Your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability checks you make that uses either of these chosen proficiencies. So that's the thing, is like it keeps saying like you can only choose things that you already have a proficiency in.
Yeah.
But if you can change that, what happens? It doesn't. I don't know what happens.
It sounds like a great question for somebody else to figure out.
Yeah, dude.
I do like the general flavor, though, especially with like tool proficiencies.
Yes,
where you're like, hey, do you know how to use armorer's tools? We need to fix this armor, and you're like, nah. And then you wake up the next day and you're like,
wait,
guys.
I misread the ability. I misunderstood the ability. This whole conversation doesn't make any sense.
Oh, we can cut it.
Then this is just an extra proficiency you gain. It doesn't. When it says you can replace this proficiency with another when you finish a long rest, it's not like you're swapping out your other proficiencies. This ability grants you a new proficiency that you can just change every long rest.
Correct.
So that solves that problem.
But if you weren't proficient in stealth to begin with.
But that's the thing then, like when you level up, so then that still applies. That still applies to later levels, because rogues get proficiency at level 6 again, and this is a 3rd level ability. So if you can you try to expertise this ability, because you are proficient in it, but not permanently.
Yeah, that's the question. No, so it still works. It
still works, but it's just a little bit more of a later game issue than an early one.
Yeah. I do like the idea, though, that you don't know how to use armorer's tools. You go to bed, you wake up, and you go, oh, guys, I do know how to use armorer's tools.
I was a smith in another life.
I just remembered I was a smith. And they're like, oh, sweet. Now can you pick this lock for us? And you go, no, I forgot how to use thieves' tools. I don't know how to use those anymore.
Because that was the swing ability.
It's just like, that being said, yeah, like that's a funny bit, but
rogues get thieves tool proficiency automatically.
Oh, they get it. Okay, so then, a different tool
then
proficiency. Then
it would have been like, oh, can you mix me up a potion today? Nah.
Nah, I forgot how to do that. That's gone. If you give me another day, maybe, but then I can't do armoring anymore. I like, though, that it's all, instead of doing it like that, you could also work it more into like this backstory of this character that's got so many past lives, it gets jumbled up, and they may be, in later abilities, they maybe even have personality traits that can change pretty frequently.
Yeah, which I do appreciate. While you bringing it up, I do want to talk about that. It's the 13th, wait, no, what is it? Where is it?
It's 13th level
It's
one,
a 13th level ability where that's part of like an actual cool ability where whenever you hit 0 and start making death saving throws, you can talk to death and it has to answer yes or no questions truthfully.
You get one question and death has to answer it.
But the other ability is whenever you have 0 hit points and are healed or stabilized, you can change any of your personal characteristics, personality trait, ideal, bond, or flaw. And I just really appreciate Wizards of the Coast giving me permission to change my personality as a character.
Yeah. Before that, I had been locked in the whole game.
Before that,
I could never learn or grow.
I had made decisions and then never was able to change them for any reason whatsoever.
No, but I like what I think is the intended route, which is to say you suddenly wake up from having been dead and now you're an alcoholic, and before you weren't.
And
now you really care about helping the poor when previously you didn't give a crap about the poor.
Your least favorite thing to do.
I like that. There was just like these sudden massive shifts in character where it's like one day you're like, the only thing that matters to me is finding my sister. And the next day you wake up and why are we wasting all this time finding my sister? Let's party.
Yeah. Stuff like that.
Like, wait, you were the one who started this quest.
That is cool. But like I said, you're a rogue. You already do that.
We already assumed that was happening.
We already assumed
you didn't have to
that
die.
Your personality will change violently and aggressively for no reason.
Mm-hmm. So there's something else about this that I think is actually pretty good that I wanted to talk about, which is the 3rd level. You don't need to eat, drink, or breathe.
Yeah, that's a very popular one for people who are dead related.
Yeah. It does remove a lot of things that like would come up normally. Stuff like something that, okay, it doesn't come up that often, but every once in a while you'll have a game where something like, I don't know, drowning comes up. Mm-hmm. And you just can't drown.
Yeah,
because drowning is just a lack of breathing. So you can just sit on the bottom of a lake. And that's weird to me a little bit. At 3rd level, I don't know. It's good. It's cool. And normally the eating and drinking won't come up that much because lots of parties don't really track eating and drinking anyway, unless you're being really hardcore about it. Yeah. But the breathing part
like I started to do with Blackwood's campaign and then immediately abandoned.
It's just more work than anyone wants to do, really. Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about the Bolts from the Grave one, which is probably the standout rogue ability here.
That's a really cool
ability. The non-ridiculous, like, character trait related one.
Yeah. So basically ignoring what the text actually says, what this says is you get 2 attacks on your turn.
Yeah.
And if you haven't used sneak attack, you can use your sneak attack on this. That's just what it is.
Even if you're not like
even if you're not dual wielding. Like normally you have to dual wield to get this stuff. Now that being said though, so let's just actually read it though. You have learned to unleash bolts of necrotic energy from within your revived body. Weird flex, but okay. Immediately after you use your cunning action, which is like your bonus action ability to use dash, disengage, or hide, you can make a ranged spell attack against a creature within 30 feet of you, provided you haven't used your sneak attack already. So, now that being said, that's kind of that restriction is like, well, if you've already hit with a sneak attack, then you can't use this.
Yeah.
However, you can just do this first and then attack. That restriction doesn't mean anything. However, this does use your sneak attack for the turn, but you can still get multiple attacks in, kind of a thing.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things about this, really, and it is something I don't want to skip over, is it doesn't actually require any of the normal sneak attack things.
Yeah,
it just says when you do it,
damage.
it does sneak attack damage and uses up your sneak attack. But you normally need advantage or to be using a specific kind of weapon or whatever. You don't need any of that. It can be any situation. You can have disadvantage on the attack. It doesn't matter.
And it still will get that massive sneak attack damage.
Which
and
is
it's at range,
pretty good.
And it's while you're also using a useful ability. So
and it's necrotic damage, which is like not to be
very rarely resisted.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
it's really good.
It's really cool, and that's the thing is like unless you're like specifically going into dual wielding and like multi-class into fighter to get like dual wielding fighting style and like the feat, the dual wielder to like improve the types of weapon you can dual wield. This is just strictly better than dual wielding as a rogue. It's like now you can just do whatever you want, but then you'll also just get to fire off sneak attack if you missed, or if you haven't attacked yet, or if you didn't have the opportunity to attack this turn. You can run away with your rapier and like disengage and just laser shoot them in the face as you're running away.
Yep. Yeah, disengage is the one I think would be most often used because it's just so good to have for free during. I mean, you can also, go hide or dash or whatever, but like you don't even have to move to use the disengage action if you don't want to move from where you're at or anything,
you can just spam disengage. Now
I just don't have opportunity attacks at the end.
Interesting about this is that it kind of screws up hide. Because you use the hide bonus cunning action to hide, but the rules of remaining hidden is that if you then make an attack roll against someone, even if you miss, they then know where you are. So like, I'm going to hide behind here, shoots a lead death laser at someone over there. Well, now they know where I am, so hiding was pointless.
Yep.
So be careful when you're hiding, kids.
Normally that would be good if this required you to be like hidden to get the sneak attack damage.
Yeah.
But since this gives you the sneak attack damage for free, there's no reason to hide to get it, Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I also want to talk about really quick how disappointing the 17th level ability is. I was reading this, I was like hooked. I was on the edge of my seat reading the revived, and I was like, man, you've lived a bunch of lives. When you die, you have advantage on death saving throws. You can talk to death, like all kinds of weird stuff. 17th level capstone ability of your whole subclass. What does it do? You can teleport.
It's Misty Step.
Cool. Okay. Cool.
That
feels so weird to me.
You get a 17th level Misty Step.
Oh, it's so bad. Why is that?
You get something that literally 2 races get for free at the start of the game.
Here's my idea.
You just be an arcane trickster, and guess what? Oh, I know Misty Step.
Here's my idea. I want to pitch it. 17th level ability. Once per day, when you die, you can instead choose to be revived, but you lose all experience down to 17th level. Okay. You just reset back to this ability.
It just keeps keeping you at 17th level, but it's just like a time loop kind of a thing.
Yeah, and it's just once per day, so you can't like spam it to get through a fight forever. But it would work so well with the class of coming back to life. When you die, you could change all of your characteristics and stuff. And
wait. No,
just reflavor it like you're starting over again.
Yeah, I think, I mean, like, we can, like, simplify that a little bit. Like, at 17th level, once per day, when you die, you are under the effect of a reincarnation spell.
Oh,
you just come back at full health. They just have to kill you twice, and now you come back as a dragonborn.
That's so good. One day when you die, the reincarnation spell is cast upon you. You cannot avoid it. It cannot be dispelled.
You
boop,
become
hey, I'm back.
Something else, and now you're back at full health, and you're ready to go.
And then
that's a capstone, kids.
That would be amazing, and I would be. Beautiful chef noise. Chef kiss. Mwah. That's perfect. Why isn't that it? Why do we teleport? What does this even? Okay,
but let's give them a second level spell that they can cast for free.
Outside of like saying they're just bad at designing, what could they have been trying to like? How does this help you? Why is this a 17th level? What could they have been going for here? I can't figure it out.
Just not entirely sure. Because, like, the flavor-wise, they're like, you are so attuned with death, you can slip into the ethereal plane. And it's just, like, while... Because that's, like, the biggest thing about the revived rogue is, like, flavor-wise, it's, like, such an interesting idea. But flavor-wise, none of the abilities really work together towards a goal.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
As much, yeah, like the rune knight, the rune fighter, like all of their abilities like learn from each other and help each other and stack on each other, and it's like, but you can still like customize your character in any direction you want, kind of a thing. This is like you do this thing and you do it this way, and you can kind of change who you are whenever you die or take a rest. And you can teleport sometimes when you're really good at it.
Yeah. I feel like it was like so close to greatness, and with a little bit more work, this revived rogue would be just a masterpiece.
Yeah. And I think it's just one of those things where it's like maybe they were just kind of like what you were talking about. They were going for roleplay ability, where it's like, like this cool rogue who's so in tune with death, no walls except for magical ones can stop him. And
yes, it's true.
And it's just one of those things where it's like, but I could have just been an arcane trickster, and then I wouldn't have all these weird stipulations on this ability. I would just be able to teleport whenever I wanted.
I could have
since I was like level 5.
Yeah. Could have just done that and cast this or other good spells.
Yeah, or like Tasha's Hideous Laughter, or Shield, or Featherfall. You know, like this one, it's like, well, you can teleport when you're level 17, but we also almost guarantee sneak attack every round. Maybe that's like the balance they were going for, is where it's like you can have like basically unconditional sneak attack because of the Deadbolt's ability, kind of a thing. And so therefore your 17th level, like, yeah, like we know the assassin 17th level is like you basically just get to instantaneously kill someone.
Yeah.
But this one we just wanted you to be able to move a little faster.
You could just teleport a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like the real quick. I liked the I feel like maybe Wizards of the Coast commentary on how they would have liked to word the Elvish sleeping clause, the trance clause. Because in here it says you don't need to sleep. When you take a long rest, you must spend at least 4 hours in an inactive, motionless state rather than sleeping. In this state, you remain semi-conscious and you can hear as normal. I think that's what they wanted to do.
With the elven sleeping clause, but then they didn't retcon it.
Yeah. I think that's what they had always intended.
Well, it's like
inactive,
they say you are in a meditative
you can
state.
hear, but the rest of it, no. But you can't be doing stuff.
And the reason they put that in is because probably the most asked question on Twitter that Mike Merles gets is, hey, can my elf see or hear while they're meditating?
Yeah,
that's probably the most asked question.
I think this is I would in a game use this as a new template for reference point. That makes the most sense to me. Yeah. Cool. I think these have been really good. All of these new subclasses coming out, I've really enjoyed them. I feel like they're gearing up for something, a new big book.
Well, I know there's like that new Eberron book coming out that has like a bunch of different player options in it.
Cool.
It's like, it's one of those, like, this is also a story campaign, but also it adds player options. So I'm probably gonna get it. ?
All right. Well, this has been a good conversation, a great side quest. We made it through all 3 classes, subclasses. If you had to pick one favorite of the 3, which one would you pick?
Well,
You're forced to.
I'm forced to. Well, I'm always a hack and slash boy, so I will take the Rune Knight over bees any day.
I think that's a very good choice, and I think that I would be hard pressed to not give that one a go, give that one a roll. But I do have to say, with the caveat, if the 17th level ability was you get to be reincarnated once a day, I would go with the Revive Rogue any day.
Or like
it's
once
weird
a
and
year
right up my
or
alley.
Something. Yeah.
Like something, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my absolute jam. Bees is hilarious, but also, I don't know, not really that interesting. But maybe that's just because it says Ranger at the front.
Yeah, it's probably just because it has the R word on it.
Yeah. And with that, we'll wrap it up today. Thanks for joining me, Onog. We'll come back and do another one soon where we go back probably and catch up on some of the ones we missed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the end of our side quest today. Nobody even died.
Yeah. Well, except for the bees. Except for hundreds and hundreds of bees.
Thousands of bees. Listeners, travelers, if you have any homebrews you'd like us to discuss on our mainline show, send them to us at our email, thecopperfoxinn@gmail.com, or you can send them to us on Twitter at thecopperfoxinn. If you have stuff you'd like us to cover in a side quest, comment it below and let us know in the comments which one of these is your favorite subclass that we've talked about today. Or if you don't want to do that, you can't pick a favorite, they're all your beautiful children, just comment the word bees below. Feel free to do that. With that, we'll be done and we'll see you next time. Keep on adventuring.